Hey, it's me. It's this guy. So recently I saw Fantastic Four with my dad. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. But I have this problem with Marvel, which is I'm not always a fan of happy endings. I honestly think some of the best endings are the bad endings and the sad endings. I feel like they solidify a lot more than a good ending. Because you can say the hero saved the day all you want, it doesn't really solidify anything. It doesn't really set in your head like an impact. It's just like you're escaping reality for a few hours. You have a good ending. Everything's happy and joyful. You feel good for a couple hours after you leave the theater, and everything's fine. And then you go back to life, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with a good ending. It's just I think Marvel overdoes good endings. The last like bad ending we got was Infinity War, which we knew was going to be retconned by Endgame just like 2 years later. Um, so even Infinity War didn't really have an impact in terms of like sad endings, right? I don't really count it for that. Um, my thing is that I'm a big Galactus fan. I really like Galactus's character. Um, and seeing that we were getting like an actual like accurate representation for the first time ever in a movie was super cool and exciting. Um, and I was really excited to see where they go with it because Galactus's character is this. He's this omnipotent, powerful threat that goes beyond a standard punching bag. He's this incredibly powerful primordial force that you can't reckon with. You can't just punch Galactus in the face and win the day. That's not how it works. Galactus is beyond that in so many ways. Um, he's almost an inevitability. In a lot of circumstances, which is why I like his character so much. He's beyond the standard. I'm gonna punch you in the face and win the day. Um, and I was really hoping that they were gonna go that route of well, this is a threat beyond even Reed Richards' capabilities, right? Um, but unfortunately, that's not the way they went. Keep in mind, I still really enjoyed the movie. I think it was a really good movie. But I think that it just suffered from the ending. And I'll get into that. So for those who don't know, at the end of Thunderbolts in the end credit scene, there's a in the end credit scene there's a scene where the Fantastic Four are flying in on their ship into the MCU's world. Because if you don't know, Fantastic Four takes place on a different world. So it was speculation that the Fantastic Four had lost to Galactus or were bargaining with Galactus, because in a lot of iterations of the Fantastic Four, they can't just punch Galactus and win. They can't beat him with standard force. They have to bargain with him, or they just lose. So my theory and my dad's theory as well was that they had either lost to Galactus and were heading to the MCU's world, or they were giving up the MCU's world to Galactus to save their world. And that was the theory that I was hoping that either one of those was correct. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. What happened was, at the end of the movie, and they teased it a few times. They're like, "Hey, you should." Silver Surfer came in and was like, "Hey, you should get the fuck out of here because your world's gonna die. Like, go somewhere else." So they were teasing the idea and they were keeping us on the edge about it. But nothing actually happened. And I was really hoping they were gonna go that route. But at the end of the movie, they're like, "Okay, so we're just gonna fucking make a big ass portal, and it's like the end destination of this big ass portal is like the like the end of the universe, right? And that's gonna delay Galactus. If we teleport him to like this really far off plane, it's gonna take him like bajillion years to get back here, so we'll be fine. Um, and that was their plan. And there were a few times in the end where where I was like, oh, it's not gonna work because Silver Surfer just sabotaged their big plans, but then it works anyways. And at the end, what happens is, Galactus, gets pushed by Sue Storm because apparently Sue Storm's strong enough to push fucking Galactus, which would never happen in a comic, but whatever. Sue Storm pushes Galactus with her force abilities into the portal, and Silver Surfer comes in as Galactus is holding on by his fingers to keep out of the portal, and knocks Galactus into the portal, and the movie's over, and the day is saved, and there's no real sacrifice, there's no consequences, it's just its happy ending. And I was kind of bitter about that, because we see so many, we know what's gonna happen by this point with every fucking Marvel movie. The last time I was surprised by a Marvel ending was Spider-Man No Way Home. And even that wasn't a bad ending. I mean, it was a sad ending, but it wasn't bad. That was the last time I was surprised by an ending. And it's gotten to a point where it's just stale. Now a lot of people say, well, it's about the how you get there that matters. You know what's going to happen in a lot of things, but it's the journey to that point that matters. And in most circumstances, I would agree. But when you have a film franchise, and a property so large and consistently pumping out movies every year, and we've gotten to how many dozens of movies now from Marvel, and there's not been a single one of those on the roster that's had like an actual impactful bad ending. And the ones that the one that did have some impact got retconned and like just completely undone in the next movie. It's stale. And I really wish MCU would just like give their characters just one loss, especially with a character that's not meant to be treated the way it was treated. Galactus is not just I smash things and Reed Richards comes in, punch me in face, and they win day. That's not Galactus. Galactus is a lot more powerful and a lot more just himself. And by himself, he's not something that you can just stop. And like, that's kind of, I'm glad that they didn't just outright say oh, we just we killed Galactus and the day is saved, right? I'm glad they didn't go that route, but I'm still not happy with the route they took. They were just like, we're gonna punch Galactus in the face and he's gonna go to the end of the universe and we're all fine. That's not, I don't feel like that's a proper representation of Galactus. I feel like that's kind of a spin in the face of the character of Galactus, actually. Because you've reduced him to a punching bag, right? And that's not what you want Galactus to be. Galactus is like one of the few characters that I feel has an actual like omnipresent threat in Marvel. He's one of those very few. Like him and Doctor Doom, and that's pretty much it for threats in the MCU that like actually have a consistent impact. And they just kind of fucked his character with that. I really wish that they gave them a loss. If I had to choose the ending, I would have made it so that their world was eaten. Genuinely, I would have made it that the Fantastic Four had to retreat to the MCU's world, because I would have loved to see an actual like a major loss like that actually be represented and encountered, and like actually show sacrifice. because we don't see that in any Marvel movies. We don't. And those sadder, more like bad endings, like I said earlier, are usually the ones that stick with you the most. And like I'm not opposed to happy endings. It's just like after the 30,000th film with a happy ending, it just gets stale, and especially when you butcher the idea of a character. Like it would be like if I said like it would be like if I said Berserk gets a happy ending, right? Like that in no world does that make sense. It's same concept. It's just ever so slightly frustrating because they presented a character that is known in the comics for like actually posing significant threat and actually forcing the protagonist, that being most commonly the Fantastic Four, to think beyond violence and actually use their wits. And they did use their wits a little bit in this, but ultimately it was just punch him into the portal, and that's all it was. There was no bargaining tools, because they weren't. They, by no means were they willing to sacrifice their kid, which is understandable. But there was no bargaining tools. There's no attempt to bargain. It was just, we're gonna fight him. And I think that's unfortunate because I would have loved to see an actual, like, impactful ending this time. I still really enjoyed the movie. It's still worth seeing. I'm probably gonna see it again. I really liked it. It's just an unfortunate reality that MCU just refuses to let their characters lose. And that's really all I gotta say. I sound pretty cynical saying all this, but honestly, it's because I am kind of cynical about this. I think bad endings are usually better than good endings in a lot of circumstances. That, like I said, you don't have to have just bad endings, but I'm often left with more impact, and I feel more meaning with the bad endings. And that's just not something we see with Marvel. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening to my rant for the two people watching, both of which are me. And yeah, thanks. So yeah, fuck